Hi guys, so today I'm going to be taking apart this Canon PowerShot A490 digital camera. Usually when you take apart things like digital cameras, there's a lot of small components in there. You do need a very small screwdriver to get into it, to take it apart. Now there's not going to be a lot of stuff in here, obviously, in terms of recovery. But really why I want to take it apart is just to see actually how much kind of gold plated items are in there, if there's any little IC chips, things like that. So worthwhile taking apart. But as always with these, if they're working, they're in good condition, you'd be much better selling them online rather than taking it apart for scrap value. This particular Canon, as I say, is a PowerShot A490. Canons are usually quite good cameras. This is a 10 megapixel, 3x3 optical zoom. It's got a 2.5-inch LCD screen, which you can see on the back. Usually with these things, a couple of AA batteries. I'm sure that's what it's got in it. I'll check that in a minute. And it's a 30 frames per second VGA video. So let's get in there. Let's start taking it apart. First things first, let's see if it's got what batteries in it. A little compartment here. As you can see, 2 AA batteries, so we'll take them out. Dispose of them with my other batteries. Little sound card, a little digital memory card, and of course gold flashing on them. I've got a box where I keep all my memory cards in. This one is a 2 GB. Again, you can sell these on once you clear them, or you can recover the gold on the memory card itself. Nothing else that you can take off immediately, so I actually need to start unscrewing it to see what's inside. Now again, you do need the right tools for these things. Can be really awkward, the little screws. Some of them can be really tight, and obviously if you start rounding the screws, it then becomes difficult to actually get them out. So try and take some care when you're initially trying to turn them, and then eventually they will come out. This one on the side seems a little bit more difficult. Try and put a little bit more pressure on it till we get it turning, and then hopefully that'll come out a little bit easier. If not, then we'll need to change the bit and get something a little bit more appropriate. Try and get out, but it looks like it's turning, and we can get it out. There we go, there's that one out. Any other screws that I can see? Nope, nothing there in immediate view. The little connection in here obviously is for your leads, your audio output. So we'll just actually take it off. There's a couple of screws in here, as you can see, and we'll get them out as well. As I say, all very small screws, components in these digital cameras, so it's never going to be great yield in terms of what's involved and what's inside them, but hopefully there's some gold plated items inside and we'll be able to recover them. No, that thing doesn't click off, so let's see how we can get into this. Let's take this piece off first of all, and that does reveal that there's no screw, so again take that one off. These things really are just bit by bit. You know, get every screw out that you can. If there's a screw, remove it, and that should hopefully make it a little bit easier to get it off. But as just a little bit of trial and error, hopefully it shouldn't be too hard to take apart. Put my screwdriver in, see if there's any way I can kind of break this open. Starting to come apart a little bit. This top bit seems to be preventing it. Okay. And there we go, we're in. So on first glance, not a lot to see. Obviously we've got the compartment for the batteries, connected by some wires, so we'll just break them apart and we'll do this bit by bit. So the first piece with the compartment for the batteries, let's see if there's anything underneath here that we can get to. Take the face off. And then underneath we can see some buttons. Hopefully we can get underneath those buttons and see if there's actually any gold plating underneath. So we'll put that to the side at the moment, and we'll have a look later to see if there's any gold plating. Obviously these little buttons here, they have a little, usually it's brass or copper, the top piece, and underneath is usually where the gold lies. So we'll have a look at that a little bit later on. In terms of the screen, not much to see here. Looks like there's a little board underneath, if you can see in here. We will try and see if there's any other screws that we can take out to get to that board without actually having to just break it apart. Can't see any immediate screws. Okay, there's one here with the screen attaching to the back plate. Usually with these things as well, you have a little pull on it, and if it doesn't come away immediately, usually there's another screw somewhere that you've not spotted. So that's what I've done there. There's another screw that I hadn't spotted, and we'll take that out. Hopefully now it comes apart a little bit easier, which it does, but as you can see, still attached, which means there's another screw. And we'll take that one apart as well, and take it off. Thankfully none of these screws have rounded, and it can come apart quite easily. So in terms of the screen, not much there. There's a little metal plate on the back of the screen. Nothing there of value, so to speak. And we'll have a look at that. We'll take that apart in a little bit more detail. What you can see though is a little board. So there's a little board there. I was hoping to see a few more gold items, but actually not too much. You can see here, these are little connectors, and they're all gold plated pins inside them. They're very, very small and very hard to recover. There is some IC chips, and again we keep them because they do contain gold wiring, and we do have some MLCCs, some capacitors that contain both silver and palladium. So again, we will keep them, we will harvest them. But initially we'll take off the final screw so we can free that board from its casing. hopefully we'll get a look at the back of it to see if there's anything contained on the back. Okay, so that's free. On the back we've got the housing for the SD card. Sometimes there's gold pins in here, so we'll have a quick look. We'll break that off and we'll see. Yeah, so there's a couple of kind of gold plated bit at the very end, but not a lot of high value there. Again, the only real value in this is we've got some MLCCs. Now you want to make sure that these are the MLCCs and they're not resistors, as only one has silver and palladium and the other doesn't. So these can be all different colours. It can be brown, it can be black, it can be green, but you want to make sure that you're taking, you know, the correct things off to keep in your stockpile, and we're not contaminating that with resistors. Sometimes these little audio connections have gold plating inside them, so we'll check that a little bit later. Doesn't look like there's too much in here. Certainly no major gold plating apparent, other than, like I say, these connectors here for your wires. So that's the main board. On the piece we took off, no value whatsoever, some little bits of wire, and no real gold plating or anything attached there. So the only other piece was the screen, and we can take apart the screen and see if there's any value here. Some gold plating through the ribbing. There's some gold flashing on the end of the ribbing. Don't know if you can actually see that in this light, but there's some minor gold flashing on the end there. You can see that just here. Again, you need to save lots of these up to actually have any yield, because it is a very, very thin coating of gold. It's not a thick coating whatsoever. So let's break apart the screen, see if there's anything behind it. I don't think there will be. Probably not even worth breaking apart, but again, just want to make sure we're getting into everything and we're showing you guys, you know, where there's value and where there's not. So there's a main piece of backing metal, just a piece of steel. Put that to one side, and then you have the screen itself. A little steel outer frame, and then you have usually a kind of plastic aluminium coated back screen, reflective piece, and that really is just plastic and it's coated. Again, not real aluminium, so don't stick that in your aluminium pile. And then with all kind of LCD screens or digital screens, they're all pretty much similar makeup. Even if you're doing TVs, they're pretty similar makeup as well. So no value really in there, unless again you're keeping the screens and you're selling the screens on. I don't see much value in them, it's not something I do. The back of it, obviously there's a few things in here, so we'll start taking off these screws. Smaller screws are a little bit more difficult to get out. Actually can't get that one out at all, it doesn't seem to be moving. Oh, there we go, it's out. Very, very small screw. We'll see if there's actually a way we can remove this from the back case, or in fact the front case, and see what's underneath. screw this side, and hopefully that will free it up from the plastic casing. Now, as I've said, normally I'm much more interested in appliances rather than small digital cameras or mobile phones. And even though there can be some gold plating in here and some value, you know, it's not too much, and you know, questionable if it's worth your time doing. Can be difficult to get these things out. There will be some screw underneath the main battery. So there's an onboard battery as well as the removable batteries. And really it's just the back of the camera itself. So we have the battery attached to the flash. Again, nothing in there that can be kept or be scavenged that's worth anything to myself. There's a very tiny little piece of copper inside this component, but again, probably not worth pulling off. And in here there's probably a little bit of aluminium, very little piece. Again, probably not worth too much in terms of recovery, but we will take it apart. Again, just showing what's involved in the camera. Bit of a stubborn one there. So we do have a real stubborn screw trying to get that out, and you can see there's a little kind of chip on the back there. That does contain some gold within that chip, not a lot, and again probably not something worth scavenging. So that's it guys, that's the teardown of the digital camera. Main components didn't get too much out there. As you can see, there was only one very small board with some IC chips. Bit disappointing there wasn't much gold plating on there. I was expecting to see a little bit more, but unfortunately not a lot. There will be some pins, as I say, within the connectors that are gold plated, but there isn't a lot and they're very, very small. So let's have a quick rundown of the main components that we've pulled out of the digital camera. So obviously we've got the back plate and nothing connected to the back plate. And obviously there's buttons here, and you did see me pull out a little kind of button sheet. Now that's what the button sheet looks like. Commonly with these there is a little bit of silver plating within them. Trying to peel that top layer off this to take these little copper plated buttons off would be quite difficult, so I'm not even going to try that. There's not enough in there for me to try and get that off. Front panel, nothing connected to the front panel, no recovery there at all. Battery compartment, again nothing within the battery compartment, nothing to salvage. There's a little button on the top there, and again may contain a little bit of silver, but minute traces. The flash, again not a lot on the flash. there's a little battery connected to the flash and an internal battery, but nothing there for recovery purposes. The lens, now with the lens, because it's digital camera, there will be a little motor in there. You can see the little motor here, so we'll take that out. I'll keep that with my other motors, electrical motors. There will be a little bit of copper in there. Again, just build them up for weight. I don't take the copper out of them, I just keep them all together and sell them as just electrical motors to the scrapyard. Nothing else really of note in there. As you see, at the back of all these lenses there is a little kind of chip. I did see the chip earlier, a little bit of gold plating in those chips, but they're very small, not high value. And the final thing was the board. So again, the board, no gold plating other than the little connectors and little pins within those connectors. Sometimes these little pieces, these little connectors here are gold plated, and quite common actually to be gold plated, especially in phones and in digital cameras. But this one isn't, unfortunately. This is just a steel one, so not a lot of value there. And on the other side, the same. There's a little bit of gold plating on the edge of these little pins, but not a lot. But yeah, you can pull them off, keep them with your gold plated items. And obviously IC chips and MLCCs are contained within that. But that's it. So was it worthwhile? Probably not. Not a lot of recovery there. You need an awful lot of them to get any kind of real value out of it. Personally, I'd rather take the bigger items and recover things like copper and aluminium and brass, and obviously with bigger boards, bigger PCB boards, you're going to get a lot more value. You're going to get a lot more components that you can extract from those boards. These little boards that come with digital cameras and phones, they're very small, they're very limited, there's not a lot on them. And even actually try to get the IC chips off them can be quite difficult. So, you know, I don't recommend, if you're recovering as a hobby like I do, it's not a business, it's a hobby. And if you're recovering that way, you know, I wouldn't even recommend touching these things. There's not a lot of value out of them. And I would focus on recovering larger electrical items. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate your time. I will be making lots more videos and taking apart lots more items and scrapping them down so you can see what components are contained within these electrical items. There will be some small items, some larger items, really from, you know, household electrical items to things you would use, say in the garden, like lawnmowers or hedge trimmers, all that kind of thing. And we'll give you a bit of insight into what's contained within these, what's worth scrapping and what's better just to leave alone. So thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and appreciate your time. Thanks for now. Bye.